Let me go over the futures really quick here. To me, that's the most fun part of the video because that's where we get a chance to make some money. All right, I went ahead and ran them down for you. These numbers that you see, these odds that you see, they correspond to the sportsbook in town that has the actual highest odds on that team on the future line. So you're welcome. I go ahead and do all that work for you. I have every single sports app in town on my phone. So these numbers you're seeing here on the virtual whiteboard, they are the absolute highest number in town. Minnesota 200 to 1. Yes, it's juicy. Yes, it looks good. You can play it for fun. I actually think they could beat Penn State this week. I kind of think this is a tricky spot for Penn State. And as I was alluding to earlier, because Penn State needs the Ohio State game more than this one, but yet this is actually a bigger game for Minnesota, I kind of like Minnesota getting the touchdown in this game. I might play Minnesota +7. If you wanted to play it for fun, because I think they have a shot at pulling the upset here, 200 to 1 might be fun. Take 20 bucks, it wins 4,000. It gives you something to root for. But realistically, could they win out, or could they make the playoff and win 2 games in a playoff against a Clemson, an Ohio, or not an Ohio State, because they would have to beat them in the Big Ten game, against a Clemson, against Alabama, LSU? Probably not. I'm not saying to run out and bet them. I'm just saying bet it if you want to put 10 or 20 bucks for fun and watch them play Penn State this week. It's an okay line. I'm off it. I'm not taking it. I'm not on Minnesota at all. Utah 50 to 1, Oregon 50 to 1. You know, Oregon at 50 to 1, that's a little juicy. It's by far the highest line. I've seen a couple of 50 to 1s on Utah. Definitely 40 to 1s all over town on Utah. This 50 to 1 that Circa has on Oregon is by far the highest. The next highest number I've seen on Oregon is 30. So you're getting almost twice the value if you go downtown to Circa and play it at 50. The reason I think it's a little interesting is because I think they're going to win out and play Utah in the Pac-12 championship game, right? So if they win that game, which they would be favored in, if they're 11-1 and playing 11-1 Utah, I would expect the line to be somewhere around Oregon 3.5, 3.5. And if they win that game, the fact that their only loss is to a good Auburn team in a very close game, you're going to have a shot at making the playoff, especially if Georgia loses somewhere along the line. Now, if Georgia wins out, you're screwed. But if Georgia loses to either Alabama, you know, in their title game, or to Auburn in the regular season, Oregon's got a real shot here. So that 50 to 1 is a little bit alluring. I think there's value there. OU at 30, we talked about how I think Oregon has a better path to the playoff than OU. I think that OU loss really hurt them compared to Oregon's loss. And I think the fact that Oregon can beat Utah is better than any win that Oklahoma's going to have the rest of the season. So I'd rather have Oregon at 50 than OU at 30. I think you could pass on OU. Georgia at 16. This is interesting because Georgia has an elite roster, talent level up and down, all over the field at every position. The problem is you have a very tricky game at Auburn on the road. Kirby Smart has not done a good job beating SEC West opponents on the road. He's been terrible at that, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, 16, there's just no value. I actually like Georgia. I like Georgia, and I think they could be a real threat. But at 16 to 1, there's no value because you have to beat Auburn, then you have to beat Alabama or LSU in the championship game, and then you have to win 2 more games in the playoff against Clemson or Ohio State or whoever. So there's no value there. Penn State at 35. Now, 35 to 1 at Circa. This is by far the best line. So it is a good line compared to everybody else. Most places have Penn State around 15 to 1 to 18 to 1. However, I would pass. When you're telling me they're a 14-point dog against Ohio State, right there I would pass on 35 to 1. It's just not high enough. Circa's smart to offer this line as high as it is because it's probably not winning. And you might not even beat Minnesota. But like I said before, the game that's more important is the Ohio State game. But as a 2-touchdown dog, you have to win that game. Then you have to win the Big Ten championship game. Then you have to win 2 games in the playoff. It's a lot to ask. And at 35 to 1, there's just no value there. LSU plus 575 at Circa. See, Circa's smart. Whoever's running the book at Circa, they know what they're doing. And I'm just telling you this as a Vegas insider. Vegas Insider. That's a good name for a channel. Whoever runs the book at Circa is smart because they're offering better lines on most teams than all the other books in town. Plus 575 is by far the best line on LSU. I think the next best line is like 4 to 1 or 9 to 2 somewhere else. But the problem is LSU's a big dog. They're a 7-point dog against Alabama, so they're probably not winning that game. Now, if they lose a close game, they can still make the playoff as long as Georgia doesn't beat Alabama. But then you still got a tough game. Well, I was going to say relatively tough against A&M, but no, they're not losing to A&M at home. You still have to win 2 games in the playoff, and plus 575 is not that high. It's a decent line. It's a decent line. If they somehow beat Alabama, then it's going to end up being a great line. But I'm just not that excited about it. I like the team, but I don't think you're beating Alabama, so I can't get excited about plus 575. And then Alabama, the highest line is 3 to 1 at Caesars. That's kind of rare because Caesars and Stations usually have the crappiest future lines on just about every team. Most places are having Bama like plus 230, plus 240 to win the title. Caesars at 3 to 1, it is significant. If you're a Bama fan and you want to see the Tide roll, go out of your way to go to a Caesars property and bet it, because the difference between plus 230 and plus 300, that's a big difference when you're betting futures. And it's those differences that make the difference between being able to consistently win money doing this and being, a loser doing this. It's sad, but it's that simple. But I would lay off it. I think Bama's in the playoff with a win. I don't think they're going to lose to Auburn and to Georgia. But I would still hold off. I don't think there's value at 3 to 1. You still got to get through LSU first, even though I think you will. And I don't think the line will go down that much, even if they win. So I would hold off on that. The Clemson line, this is the one I really like. This is my play at 4 to 1 at South Point. And South Point's the only book in town that you can get 4 to 1. The next highest is 7 to 2 at Westgate, which, as I just explained, that is a significant difference. You're better off going out of your way if you want to bet Clemson and going to the South Point and betting this. Nice thing about South Point is it's open 24 hours, so you can go there anytime and get some juice down on this. What's not to like about Clemson? This is my play here. They're not losing a game before the playoff. They're in the college football playoff. And I say this over and over again when I talk about Clemson. You got the future #1 pick at quarterback. You have 2 future NFL studs at wideout. You have an NFL stud running back in the backfield. You have a defense that's probably even played better statistically this year than last year, even though they lost all those guys. You talk about reloading. Clemson just reloads at every position. Their #1 recruiting class year in and year out. It's some combination of Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson every single year. Those 3 teams are top 3 recruiting every year. And they're the only team I could tell you right now that for sure is going to be in the college football playoff, which is another reason I don't like Ohio State yet at 5 to 2. There's just no value in Ohio State at 5 to 2 because you still got to play Penn State. You still got to play at Michigan. Then you still got to play either Minnesota or Wisconsin again. And then you still got to win 2 games in the playoff. So even though I think Ohio State will win out and actually finish 13 to 0. I have them #1 because I think they're the best team. But even at 5 to 2 to beat Clemson and or like Alabama, Georgia, or LSU, possibly even Oklahoma, you're just not getting great odds there at 5 to 2. I'd just rather have Clemson at 4 to 1. It's just more value there. So that's it. That's our top 10 in futures. And I know I rambled on, but it's, we're all about making some money here, and hopefully I told you something that can help you make an informative decision and maybe grab you a little bit of loot along the way. That's what I'm here for. That's what I enjoy doing. That's what the channel is all about. So please, if you got anything out of this, if you think maybe you can even make a little jaw from this video, please hit the subscribe button and like this video. Next set of videos, we will be getting back to college basketball. The season starts tomorrow with the Champions Classic. We have Duke, Kansas, Michigan State, and Kentucky all playing tomorrow. So I will make a video after those teams play. We'll talk about that. And I'll run down the rest of my top 25 really quick because I just ran out of time. Like I said, I've been playing a lot of poker too. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.